Alrighty. Get this keyboard out of the way and we'll take a look at this. And yes, I realize this is a very stupid idea. It's something that I am probably never going to do in real life, and realistically, probably none of you are either. Running an NES or a Sega Genesis or a Super Nintendo retro console off of a battery bank, more just a proof of concept. It's more just fun. I want to see if we can do it. So yeah, this is a 10,000 milliamp hour battery bank. It can put out 22.5 watts, but more importantly, it is power delivery, and it can put out 9 volts, 2.2 amps. They had this one on sale for $20, the 10,000 milliamp hour, 22.5 watt. They also had a larger version, 20,000 milliamp hours, 65 watts. And that one was on sale for $45 Canadian. The larger one would be more likely what you would want to buy if you were using this for a thin and light laptop or like a Steam Deck. As you can see, I haven't even opened this yet. So, is it even going to work on the NES? I'm going to find out. We're going to find out. Well, if not, we're probably not even going to see this video. So, we're going to assume that it does, or that it did. I haven't actually seen this in person other than the picture on the box, so it feels a little heavier now that it's out of the box for some reason. It's just, I don't know. It's made out of plastic. It's got this window on the top, which is kind of neat. You can see some of the electronics inside, which is cool. And it's got a little sticker peel on there. So yeah, this has got 2 Type A ports. There's one on either side, which is a little strange, but that's kind of cool. You could charge 2 different things at once, and the cord would come out different ways. We got the Type C on this side. The Type C is an input and an output, meaning the Type C is what you use to charge this, but you can also use the Type C to charge another device, just like the Type A ports. We've got a little button on the side. I'm assuming that's going to turn it on and show us the battery life. Now, like I said, this is kind of dumb. I'm never going to run a NES off of a battery, and again, none of you probably ever are either, but can we do it? Is it possible? What I really want to know is what the battery life is going to be. This is 10,000 milliamp hours. The NES runs off of I think it's a 9 volt, 900 milliamp power adapter. Obviously, the power adapter has to have some overhead in it, and so I don't know. It's certainly under 10 watts, and this is a 10,000 milliamp hour battery, but like, I don't 100% understand how all this math would work, but I think when they rate these at 10,000 milliamp hours, for example, that's the battery that's inside of here. The battery in here is a lithium ion battery. So I think when they rate the 10,000 milliamp hours, that's at 3.7 volts. That's the 3.7 volt battery that's in here. Now, typically with USB, you're outputting 5 volts, and there's going to be, as the voltage goes up, your capacity is going to go down. There's also some efficiency losses when you have to boost the 3.7 volts up to 5 volts. Now, in this case, we're boosting the 3.7 volts up to 9 volts. So we're going to lose even more efficiency, and I'm not 100% sure how this math works out. I think, this is my guess. Now, look, guys, guess how long you think it's going to go and put it in the comments. I think it's going to go, I think 3 to 4 hours. I don't know. Does that sound right? I mean, it'd be crazy if this little battery can power an NES for like 4 hours, but I don't know. Maybe it's going to be 2. Maybe it's going to be 5. I doubt it. I'm kind of thinking 3 to 4 hours is what we should expect with that NES. Again, the 7 or 8 watt load. But I guess we'll find out. Let's go over to the NES. All right, so I've got my NES out here. I'm going to turn on my little Commodore monitor, CRT. And yeah, so the only cables coming out of my NES right now, the AV cables going into the monitor, obviously. And we've got this power cable. Okay, no tricks here. This power cable, as I've shown before, is a USB Type-C to barrel plug, 5.5 millimeter barrel plug. But there's a 9-volt PD trigger inside this cable. That is the key. You can't just do this with a straight cable. USB by default is 5 volts. Historically, it's always been 5 volts. Now, because it was historically only 5 volts, a lot of USB devices are only going to use 5 volts. And so for this to work and be safe with all devices, something like this has to default to outputting 5 volts unless it gets told otherwise. In this case, there's a chip in this cable which is telling this, hey, you can put out 9 volts. All right, so we're going to plug the Type-C into here. Actually immediately came on, even though this end isn't plugged in into anything. And actually there's a little green PD light that came on. So I assume that's telling us that it's not just putting out 5 volts, it's detecting the PD trigger in the cable. So, got my multimeter out here, and we'll put that on, I think 20 volts DC. And I guess you're probably not going to be able to see this in the shot, but we'll try. Yep. We got 9.08 volts. Very, very, very close to 9 volts dead on. All right. Now that we know that that's putting out 9 volts, it's safe to plug into the NES. Alrighty. Should turn on. Here we go. Nice. It did turn on, and we've got my EverDrive in there. Where is the controller? It's down here. Okay. So, I'm pretty sure Rugrats was the last game that I played on my EverDrive, so... Yep. Alright. So I've started my stopwatch. And I'm not going to leave my camera running the whole time. Certainly my phone wouldn't have the battery life for that. But I'm going to leave this here, and I will report back when it turns off. As you can see on here, we've got 100%. So far, this is looking really good. We are 41 minutes in, and we're at 94%. And again, just to show this, right? This is the cable coming into here. That's dusty back there. That's embarrassing. But yeah, no tricks here. This NES is running off this little 10,000 milliamp hour battery bank. And we're almost 3/4 of an hour in. So just a little something that I noticed using this as the stopwatch is it doesn't show the hour. Like it only goes up to 1 hour or whatever. So we're at like 8 minutes and 49 seconds, but that's actually an hour and 8 minutes. We're at 89% on that. But yeah, anyways, we're at an hour and 9 minutes at 10:08. Oh yeah, and one thing I just thought I should mention, I was wondering, like, is this thing going to get warm or is this thing going to get hot? It's not even warm right now. Like, not even remotely warm. It's just basically just room temperature. So that's good. Sometimes with these, the voltage regulators get really, really hot. So we are about to break over the 2-hour mark, and we are still at 81%. So I said that my guess was like 3 to 4 hours, and like I said, maybe it will do 5, but I doubt it. It looks like this thing's gonna prove me very wrong. We're gonna easily do 5 hours, aren't we? All right, we are coming up on the 3-hour mark, and we are still at 71% battery life. Yeah, again, this is definitely going to blow past my expectations. I am going to reset this because I'm getting sick of looking at Rugrats. All right, we are coming up to the 4-hour mark. This is as far as I thought it would make it. And we still have 61% left on there. And what game do we have running on here now? Well, we have Super Mario Brothers 3, of course. I can't even believe I'm saying this. We are coming up onto the 5-hour mark now, and we still have 50% battery life. Yeah. Of course, if we interpolate that out, we're going to get 10 hours of battery life, right? Assuming this isn't dropping faster, and assuming it goes right to 0% when it turns off. I highly doubt that's the case, but realistically, we could get close to 10 hours. This makes me rethink the way I calculated this at first, because initially I looked at this and I said, okay, the NES doesn't use 10 watts. It probably uses something between like 6 and 8. But for the sake of making the math simple, let's just imagine that the NES uses 10 watts. Now I said, if that was a 10,000 milliamp hour battery, 10 amp hour battery, would that not mean it would go for 10 hours? And then I laughed. I said, no, there's no way it would go 10 hours. Clearly I'm doing something wrong. And I looked at the numbers in a different way, and I came up with like 3.7 hours, which is why I was saying between 3 and 4. Obviously the NES doesn't use 10 watts, but like I said, there is a efficiency loss when you're going from the 3.7 volts of the lithium-ion battery in there to the 9 volts output. So that would kind of cancel it. That little bit of inefficiency probably cancel out rounding up this thing's, 7 or 8 watts up to 10. And there you go. We're getting 10 hours, which I almost can't believe. It's a little bit of a reminder that, the NES really doesn't use a lot of power. We look at this thing and it's kind of big and clunky and old, and we think, oh, wow, it must use a lot of power. Really, it doesn't. To put that into perspective, the PlayStation 5, when you're playing games, it can use somewhere between 160 and 200 watts, which could be 30 times more power than what the NES uses. Can you imagine having 30 NESs all powered on at the same time? That's a little bit mind-blowing when I thought about it. Again, these old systems just really do not use a lot of power. Anyways, I'm not going to continue with the hourly updates at this point. I am just going to come back when it is actually shut off. So we'll see how long that is. Again, I don't think it's going to be another 5 hours, but another 4 hours maybe. We're going to get 9 hours. Again, we are at the 5-hour mark now. And we will finish this off when it is dead. All right, we are coming up to the 8-hour mark. We're at 7 hours and 55 minutes. It's 4:54 p.m. This thing is dropping fast. Like it's gone from 16% to 11% just in the last like 10 minutes maybe. It dropped from 13 to 11 pretty quickly. But I mean, yeah, it's still going. I don't know how much longer it's gonna go. We're at 7 hours and 57 minutes we're coming up on. And very close to 8 hours. Just dropped to 9%. Yeah, it's dropping very quickly now. It's not going to be much longer. We might be able to just see this happen. Again, this thing is not warm. Even now as it's getting close to death. It started dropping so fast, I was like, is it going to make it to 8 hours? It's going to make it to 8, I'm sure. You know, 8 hours really changes my perspective on this a little bit. Like, look, I'm not going to use this thing. Just drop to 6. Just drop to 6. Wow. 7 hours, 59 minutes, 40 seconds. But like thinking about it, a laptop screen, average laptop screen uses between 5 and 10 watts. So really kind of about the same as the NES. So in theory, you could get like a, a little 10-inch flip up LCD screen or something and, probably still get 4 hours off a 10,000 milliamp hour battery. You could still get 8 hours off of a 20,000 milliamp hour battery. So yeah. The NES really doesn't use a lot of power, and a small 5% is starting to blink. I'm glad I got this on camera. I was wondering if it would turn red or something at 5%. Or, 3%, 2%, something that would happen as it started to get really low. And yeah, it is flashing. And obviously we've passed the 8-hour mark. %. Yeah, dropping really fast. This is going to turn off any minute. 3%, it's blinking faster. 2%, 1%, 0%. It's still on though. That's funny. Come on. You can turn off any minute now. There it goes. Just turned off. And we were at like 8 hours and 8 hours, 1 minute and 40 seconds or something like that. We got 8 hours. I'm going to turn that off. We got 8 hours out of a 10,000 milliamp hour battery. Like I said, if you had a screen and the screen was using a similar amount of power to the NES, 5 to 10 watts, you could probably get 4 hours of playtime with the screen. And if you had the 20,000 milliamp hour version, you could maybe get 8 hours of playtime with the screen. So certainly very doable. This, power delivery and modern, GAN voltage regulation and everything is pretty cool. The fact you can just buy this, plug it into a stock NES, and run an NES for 8 hours off this little battery. It didn't even get warm. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it definitely, again, I was expecting it to go 3 to 4 hours, and it went 8. So that is very cool.